Under what circumstances can a landlord increase monthly rental? Many landlords use rental increases to scare tenants into leaving a property. And many tenants as well, when they hear that a landlord is increasing the rental, they automatically think I'm being taken advantage of. So, Bruno, what advice can we give both landlords and tenants in this regard?
Look, so quick fire, check your lease agreement. Escalation clauses are always in the lease agreement. They have to be in the lease agreement for you to because bear in mind that the agreement of a rental figure is meeting of the minds between the parties, and that's the basis of a contract, right? So unless your minds have met with respect to how the rent is going to be adjusted over a period of time, then there is no basis to adjust it. It's not to say that you can never increase a tenant's rent if they've been on your property over a period, but almost think about it as they've been there for a year. You go have a conversation with them, you speak about renewing the lease, and all that really happens is you guys enter into a new agreement, or you enter into an agreement renewing a previous agreement where a new amount is now discussed. Simple as that. If they're still there and they refuse outright, you give them notice, or you tell them, listen, it's been terminated, follow all the provisions that you have to give the right notice periods, and your lease is terminated. So I wouldn't, rental escalation isn't supposed to be used as a threat to anyone, but it can be to the degree that if you've been there for over a year, you're on a month-to-month lease, and a landlord comes and says, listen, pay X amount, otherwise I'm terminating. In as much as that's a threat, yes, it's allowable, because the landlord is allowed to say, well, if you're not going to pay me more, I'm going to, ask you to leave, go find another place, and I'll just get a new tenant in. That's not an undue threat, if you want to put it like that. That's business. That's the commercial side of a lease.
Free market system. That was my quick fire.
But interestingly on that point though, just bear in mind that there's the flip side of this. So I've seen with a lot of inner city buildings that we work on, where the rental housing tribunal suddenly decides to jump in and say that the rent that you are charging isn't actually fair. So there is our housing system, especially when it comes to like low income housing and that type of residential housing, and a person's rights being impacted, the Rental Housing Act or tribunal can jump in. I've never ever seen them do that in like normal suburban area. It's more the inner city areas where they might jump in and decide to afford some protection, where I don't know about you, Cilna, but me personally, I don't know how they measure that. It becomes very strange. It's so gray when they start saying, but it shouldn't be 2,400, should only be 1,900. And like, I don't really have a grasp on how they make up their mind with that, but they make orders, or awards, and then you as a landlord need to stick to it. But very, very seldom. They normally do leave it in the hands of the landlord unless they find it's very, very excessive and shouldn't be the case. But
exactly, because the Act says you're not allowed to charge exorbitant rentals, and I always wonder. So and the truth is, I mean, that could be. It's going to be subjective every day of the week, but if you look at the similar property, similar area, at least it gives you an indication. And if you're far out, well, you're probably not going to get a tenant, back to my free market system. So supply and demand tends to regulate the rental prices pretty impressively. I'm not going to say Cape Town, but it does tend to balance itself.
It does. I suppose, and I think that's why I've only ever seen it applied in your lower income areas, because I think there it works very differently. There, you're relying on the landlord for security. You're relying on the landlord for the elevator to work. You're relying on the landlord for a fire safety, for even control over other tenants to make sure that within the building itself there's a level of safety. and then the repairs within the building. And then on top of that, if a landlord comes in and you've got your family there, you've been staying there for years, it's not necessarily easy for you to move around and find another place. So there you are almost like on that border where protection may be necessary if a landlord comes and says, well, I don't care, I expect you to pay double tomorrow or you're on the street. I think people like that might need more protection, but that's why you really see it and you really hear about it, is because it's left for those very special circumstances. Like Cilna says, the market dictates the price. If you walk into any area and you go, oh, your flat is 4,000, your flat's 3,000, you go for the 3,000. When they increase it to 5, you go to the 4,000 rand guy.
Yeah, and I do want to correct on that point. I do want to correct myself in saying the supply and demand thing. That is why the Act says that. Because in fairness, in your low-cost housing, your extreme low-cost housing, demand is massive. And if legislation doesn't keep your price low, so we don't have the normal supply-demand effect there. Okay, I was wrong. I'm sorry. It's very necessary in those kind of properties. That's why it's there.
Well, I don't think you were wrong. I think you actually said that, but yeah, anyway, yeah. So
no, I was wrong in my own head. I know I was wrong. I didn't say it out loud, but I corrected by thinking out loud. That was amazing.
Oh, that's brilliant, though. I asked for a quick fire answer, and you guys slow cooked this one nicely for us. but that's what you get when you come to to our experts. You get more than you bargained for, and that's why we love you both. And on that note, I just wanted to thank you both again for joining us this week, like you do every week, actually, and to thank our viewers for tuning in.